Bodybuilding is a hobby to many and a healthy routine for others. However, the elite few go the distance in taking it up as a career. Frank Zane is one of those. He has reached the pinnacle of bodybuilding and has made a name and a legacy for himself. A three-time Mr Olympia winner and a three-time Mr Universe title holder, Frank Zane has filled his cabinets with illustrious trophies. One of the only three people to beat the legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger, Frank Zane has etched his name in the very history books of bodybuilding. Now, after having retired, he leads a peaceful and private life with his family. We welcome him in an exclusive sit-down as we dive into the future of bodybuilding, women's division, and much more. Join us as on ES Fancast, we sit down with the iconic bodybuilder in an in-depth discussion on his career and legacy.
Let's kick right off. Welcome to the Essentially Sports Fancast. We have a bodybuilding legend, I always say the father of aesthetics, Frank Zane, in the building. Three-time Mr. Olympia, has beaten Arnold in his prime, has trained so many legends. I mean, I think we should just get right into it, Frank. I know you're famous for starting this journey when you were a kid and your brother was getting mixed up in a lot of fights. Like how did that journey to kind of get into the sport come about for you?
Well, it started out I got stronger and bigger by working out with weights, and my appearance got impressive enough that I didn't have any more trouble. It's sort of like nobody wanted to mess with me after that, so yeah. I could just concentrate on training and schoolwork and working out. So it worked out fine.
And where did you get that base set of knowledge? Because I would say you took a very different approach to where bodybuilding was at that time. So where did you go to gather that base information for training, supplements, dieting?
I grew up in Pennsylvania, and basically the York Barbell Club and Bob Hoffman were, the main people involved with that. And so it was all AAU oriented. And I competed in one event, Teenage Mr. America, and I think I got third. And Hoffman was impressed with me, and he gave me a nice compliment. He said, "Young man, if I had a physique like yours, I'd walk around with my shirt off all the time." So when you're 18 and you hear something like that, it's impressive. And so I just stuck with it because I liked it, and I continued to do it.
And I mean, so obviously we mentioned, father of aesthetics, and your style and approach to training was, I would say, I don't want to say, different is not the right word, but definitely revolutionary, right? In the way you approached it. How did your training style come about? Where what specific things you were working on that you thought to be the best?
I just did what everybody else did in the gym.
Yeah.
That was it. There's only so many things you could do. And especially when I was in, training at Gold's Gym in Venice, California, I did what everybody else did. I used the machines, I did the free weight stuff, and, the result I got was what I looked like.
Yeah. I love the Gold's Gym reference. When I lived here in LA for 6 years, I always work out there, and I'd see Mike O'Hearn with his dogs, and Charles Glass, legendary trainers. Can you speak a little bit about your relationship with Mike and any training stories there?
I've met Mike. He came down to see me, and I'm very impressed with Mike. I mean, he's got a very impressive structure. He's tall, and he's has some body weight, and he's very impressive. I think he could really do well and win top titles in bodybuilding if he chose to. I don't know if he wants to or not, but he definitely has the potential.
And now, obviously, you're famous for competing and beating Arnold in the Mr. Universe 1968, and it was famous because you left him crying at the event. Can you go into like what that moment was like?
Well, I was in great shape for that. I just won Mr. America the week before, and I didn't even want to compete in that event because I wanted to save it for the following year. And I was living in Florida, training there, and they talked me into competing, and the contest was in Miami, and all the judges were experienced bodybuilders. And Arnold wasn't really in his best shape. He got into a lot better shape than he was there. And, you know, I beat him. I think he took it rather hard and personal. And Joe Eater picked him up, moved him to California, and set him up with an apartment and, you know, salary, and that's all he did was work out. I landed in Southern California a couple months after that, and we became friends. We worked out together.
Okay. That was exactly my next question. Have you guys trained together? What's your relationship like after that event?
Well, for a while we did, but you know, that's been about 6 years ago. So I live, you know, near San Diego. I don't get up to Los Angeles very much. So those guys are training in LA, in Venice. So I really don't get there very much, if at all. I have my own private gym that.
Okay.
I have my own private gym that I train in, so it's all suited to me.
Now, when you're training with these guys like Arnold, Mike, like other big bodybuilders in the space, like, are you worried about like giving your secrets away? Is there certain things you say? Like, what does that look like?
There are no secrets. I always share information freely.
Yeah.
It's not so much what you know. It's how you do it, you know, and so I don't freely give information away if somebody asks me. I'm still like that. I'm an educator. So, you know, it's not like I hold back on anything. I tell people, you know, whatever they ask.
Now, I love the fact that, you know, we could even say that defeat inspired him to, like, you know, go on when Mr. Olympia's kind of turned into what he became. Obviously, you were at the pinnacle of that sport. Did you ever think about entering into like entertainment, you know, media, the acting side? Like, what was that like when you were on top of the sport?
I did some of that. I had commercials. I did some acting, but
yeah,
it wasn't what I really wanted to do. I wanted to perfect my bodybuilding career, and you know, I was teaching school at the time. I was a mathematics teacher, so I continued to do that, and I went up until I was I guess 37 years old, up until 1977, and then I just went into doing it full time.
And are you still active? Yeah.
By that time,
Arnold was
fired.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say are you still actively training, aspiring bodybuilders? Like when guys come to you for advice, would you still go and like train them?
Sure.
So you're always
I have my own private studio here, and they come and I show them how to do the movements correctly.
And then last thing on Arnold, because I'm super curious about this question. You were a first-hand witness of his 1980 Mr. Olympia controversy. Like, do you think he deserved to win? Like, what specifically, if anything, do you remember about that event?
Well, he wasn't in his best shape. I'd seen it better than that. And so, I basically had some misfortune where I had a bad accident 8 weeks before, and I competed anyway. So you might say both of us really at our very, very best. But, you know, he managed to win, and, we were still friends after that.
Mm. Now, what was that like? Like, because I know you also, right? Like you mentioned, you had a bad injury. Like, how much does that impact, like, that prep leading up? And, like, mentally, too, what does that do to you going into the competition?
Well, I just did the best I could.
Yeah.
I didn't worry about it. I just did the best I could. And, I was in great shape for the contest in 1980.
I love how calm you are, and even remembering you're like, I did the best. You say it so nonchalantly, like I feel like everybody, a lot of guys get in their own head like that before these competitions.
Well, that's all you can do, is you do the best you could in the situation.
Yeah.
If I had to do it again, I'd say I probably wouldn't have competed in 1980, would have taken that year off, but I would have competed in 1981. And I think I would have easily won in 1981, and then also in 82 and 83. But I did it. Things worked out the way they did. I have no regrets about my career. I think I did very well. But,
Yeah.
we're always a genius in hindsight. Looking back, there's always a better way we could have.
I was going to say, hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Right.
Now, again, we mentioned the aesthetics thing. I think your look was what we now call the classic physique, and I think male physique now, that division has kind of opened up, right? Like the V-tape or the shoulders, the focus on like the small waist, right? Like that very aesthetic physique. Like, why has bodybuilding changed so much from that?
I don't know. I mean, I just did what I could do. I didn't do anything. I trained pretty much what everybody else at Gold's Gym was doing. I mean, I trained with Arnold.
Yeah.
So we had basically, what happened to our physiques was basically along the lines of what our structures were and what we did in the workout, even though the workouts were the same. So, it was nothing different. I think that now you have all these different variations, which is great for the sport. They have more money. You can win some real money competing these days. I mean, not so when I there was a little money toward the end, but it wasn't much compared to today.
At all. Like, I think, all these supplement companies, and like, I mean, even thinking for you, like, you would have had so many endorsements probably from, like, the swim shorts and all these new athleisure companies. Is that something that you've seen has changed the sport for the better or the worse, you would say, like kind of the influence of corporate sponsors?
I don't know, because I'm not involved in it.
Yeah.
That happened quite a bit later than when I was involved. I mean, when I was involved, the 3 years that I won Olympia, I think I won $5,000 the first year in 77, 10,000 in 78, and 20,000 in 79. And then that basically was it. I competed after that. I think I won some money in 82 and 83 as well, but it wasn't a lot. But basically, I always had a backup career. I was a mathematics teacher, so I always had that. That's something I did right up until the time I retired in 1977 from teaching.
Do you feel that your background as a math professor, also just being an education first guy, that impacted the way you looked at training compared to other guys that may not have had that background?
Possibly. I mean, I kept a workout journal. I was very meticulous about writing down what I did and then looking at it and then, ascertaining where I should go from there.
Now, you've spoken a lot of how simplistic your approach was, right? And like focusing on the important movements. Can you give us, I would say, like the 5 must-do exercises when you're training now, especially with if you're training for bodybuilding? Like, what are those 5 where it's like, I'm always going to do these. You don't need to do much more than this.
I can't say that.
No?
It's not 5. I mean, I had a routine. I had a program that I always did. You know, I basically my routine was pulling muscles day 1, that's back, biceps, and forearms. Legs day 2, calves, thighs. And day 3, chest, shoulder, triceps. I did three to 4 movements for each body part. And whatever I did was basically related to what equipment I had to do it with.
And I know you were a huge proponent of training abs and core. I feel like that's kind of neglected now in mainstream training.
I did a lot of ab work.
Yeah.
I would work up to about 1,000 reps on abs every day when I was training abs.
Really? 1,000
Yeah.
reps on in totality? Like what? Like body weight movements, weighted?
Well, Roman chair sit up, I wouldn't use any weight on that. Roman chair sit up, leg raises, hanging knee ups, seated twist, totaling up to 1,000.
God, that's insane. I feel like nobody's doing that right now. I feel like some of the things you're saying that are like you were subscribing to, and then that's kind of what led to like the difference in like I feel like getting away from aesthetics.
Could be.
And now like supplements, are you still taking supplements right now? Like what were kind of your essentials when you were lifting, like especially when it comes to recovery, just growth, like any key ones you would always go to?
The main thing I've always taken is amino acids in free form. I take one called Super Sports, put out by Monteith. And it's basically 16 amino acids in free form. And, I take anywhere from 9 to 20 a day. And I took a lot more than that when I was competing.
Now, do you think with the modern day bodybuilding and obviously going off of like the steroid culture and how that is permeated, especially like Mr. Olympia and like the highest levels, is it possible now to compete in these sports without like risking your health and honestly like your lives, your longevity? Like how are you seeing that?
I don't know, because I'm not involved in it. It would seem so, but I think there's a way to do anything. If I were doing it to win, I certainly wouldn't go off the deep end taking drugs.
Yeah.
My approach would be pretty much a natural approach, taking vitamins, minerals, and especially free-form amino acids.
Okay. And like on that, what are the most common mistakes that you think like young bodybuilders are making? Like what are some of kind of the pitfalls you would say you got to avoid when starting out?
Well, take your time and do a good job. It doesn't happen overnight. Follow some good advice. I put out material because, I'm an educator, so I've put out material that people can follow. Like I have one book that's very useful for people, 91 Day Wonder Body. Basically, this book tells you what to do every day for 3 months, for 91 days. So it takes the guesswork out of it. And then I have, it's like a workbook. Then I have more of a textbook, a manual called the Zane Bodybuilding Manual, 436 pages of everything I know about bodybuilding. So one textbook and one workbook, and that covers everything. And so I think if you follow those, and then I have a workout DVD too, called Train with Zane, which I've had out for quite some time, showing you the movements.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I think every young bodybuilder needs to watch that. Now, I know you said you don't keep up much with the current state of the sport, but I think even when you were competing, I don't think women's bodybuilding or fitness was that big like, and now it's looking to get more into the mainstream. Like, yeah, any thoughts or how you've seen that evolution?
Well, my wife competed in 1967. She won. There was a contest with Mr. America, IFBB Mr. America, called Miss Americana, and she won that in 1967 in New York City.
Wow.
And I wanted to win Mr. America that year, but I didn't. I won Miss America the year after that. But she never really cared about competing. She really just liked to travel and go to these shows. So we traveled together. We went to New York. We went to London. We went to all over Europe. So it was fun.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that you got to travel the world. Any favorite spots in Europe during your travels, or really all over the world that you were like, oh man, I got to go back there?
Well, I have my favorites. I like Japan a lot.
Japan, nice.
I like Malaysia.
Malaysia, okay.
Kuala Lumpur. Of course,
okay.
all over Europe.
Wow.
I liked Europe a lot. I've been, competing in England many times for NAB and Mr. Universe. I won both of those, the amateur and the professional.
Wow.
And then, all over Europe for exhibitions. And Belgium was always sort of a hot place for bodybuilding. The Netherlands.
Yeah, Belgium.
France. Where else? Sweden. It depended on the people who follow the sport there. Like in France with Serge Dubray, great competitor. He organized a lot of shows. In Sweden was Ulf Bengtsson, a friend of mine, who organized shows there. So naturally I went there.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, that's sick. You're that well traveled. That's amazing. Now we're gonna wrap up with some rapid fire questions here, but before that, we have a surprise video primed up from one of your longtime fans. So we'd love to show you that right now.
All right.
Mr. Frank Zane, my name is Joe. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and I run an Instagram page called Rusted Iron Bodybuilding, which you have been featured on many, many times. I'm a huge fan and have been for so many years. My question to you today, sir, is what do you believe the young competitors, young bodybuilders, and just general gym goers could do to keep the old school alive today in today's gym culture? What do you feel is missing, and what do you feel we need to be doing to bring back the camaraderie and the friendship and the competitive nature and the mentality that you guys used to have in the 70s and 80s? Thank you.
Well, in answer to this question, I'd say pay attention to what we were doing and how we did it. Take your time, do a good job. Don't over-rely on anything. Forget about using massive amounts of steroids and other drugs. That's not going to do it for you. It's all about hard work. So, get used to working hard. And the other thing is, develop a backup plan. Don't just work out with weights. Very few people can do that and succeed. Have another job, have something else. Like I was a school teacher. I taught school for 13 years. The entire time that I competed, I was teaching school.
Wow.
And then, I kept in touch with everything I learned. And I even went beyond that. I went and got a master's degree in psychology. After I stopped competing, I continued my education, got a master's in psychology. I never really used it to get any kind of employment, but it was just a sort of a feather in my cap.
I love it. That's a great answer. Now, who are some of the guys that you loved competing against? Now, I know we talked about Arnold, Michael Hearn. Any other names you could mention that you were like, oh man, it was awesome to compete against them or train with them?
Well, the only ones I competed against was Arnold, Franco Colombo, Dave Draper, although I don't think I ever competed against Dave, but he was always in the gym and we were friends. Bill Pearl never competed. Yeah, I did compete against Bill Pearl in London. And he was very big. I don't think I won. He was very big in London. But I had my objections as to how I competed against him. I won my class, he won his, and I always felt that they should have compared us side by side, but they never did.
Yeah.
So I always felt disgruntled about that. Another guy that I have a lot of respect for was Reg Park from South Africa. Reg brought me to South Africa, and I think it was 78. And great guy. I mean, we did exhibitions all over, and I had a wonderful time there. And that's about it. I mean, the other guys, I mean, they're around. I never really had that much close contact with them, like Lee Haney. He was coming up when I was finishing up. I remember in '83, I think I got fourth, and he was third. So I saw the writing on the wall. I thought, well, you know, there was a period of time between, when was it? 1983 and what was about 7 or 8 years, where the guys who were winning were basically under 200 pounds. There was Samir Badou, you know, Franco Colombo, Mohammed Makaway, me, you know, I was never really over 200, and Chris Dickerson. Then after that, I saw the writing on the wall with Lee Haney coming back, and I said, well, here come the monsters. It's all over for the small. And I was right. After that was, you know, Lee Haney won it a whole bunch of times. And then Dorian Yates, a whole bunch of times. Ron Coleman. Not that they didn't deserve it. I mean, they were the best that was there at the time. But, you know, the standards are set by who's winning the top shows. And that was these guys. That's who they were.
No, that's a great point. Now, I know you don't follow bodybuilding, modern bodybuilding that much anymore. Do you follow any other sports, like any other favorite sports you have?
I practice archery. I mean, I'm a pretty good archer.
Wow.
I have a range on my property here, and I shoot several times a week. And of course, I work out on a regular basis. I do something every day in my own gym. But I really don't go in for much of anything else.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Can you still do the same split like that you used to do?
Pretty much. I do a three-way split.
Wow.
Same one.
That's awesome.
Sometimes it's a two-way split. Like I might do upper body one day and legs the next.
Now, what's your favorite
I train
body?
a lot with my wife. I train a lot with my wife now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she's into it. She always was, but you know, she likes training together, and so that's how you know. I had a training partner before that. I don't train with him too much anymore. It's mostly with my wife now.
Okay, I love it. Cool. Keep that relationship strong. Like what?
Yeah,
so
she's very disciplined, so it's really good for me to train with her.
Yeah. Any particular your favorite parts, either body parts, training, movement, like you and your wife, like any particular day you guys love training the most?
No, not really. Everything's on an even basis.
Okay. Now give me your favorite cheat meal.
I don't cheat.
No cheat.
I don't have a cheat meal now. I mean, I might have ice cream every now and then, but if I do, it's not very much. I might have a little bit of wine, but if I do, it's not very much.
Yeah. So you're still disciplined. You're still sticking to that diet.
I don't really look at it that way. It's just basically what I'm used to doing. I know that if I don't do that, I won't feel as good.
How's your,
So
is
stay
your
with it.
protein intake high? Like you're still getting in that much protein as you used to, or you kind of taper down on that?
Not as much, not as much. I'd say I probably weigh about 170. I probably get about 150 grams of protein a day. I have mainly eggs for breakfast, and I have usually fish or chicken on the other meals, and sometimes
Okay,
red meat
okay.
too.
All right. Now, give me the best book you ever read.
This one.
You okay?
Zane
Now you're
bodybuilding,
over.
I wrote it, then I read
You
it.
got one other one that you didn't write.
I had some a few favorite authors. One of them was Allen
Yeah.
Ginsberg, one of the beat authors and beat poets, and he wrote a bunch of stuff. It's one of his writings was Gospel Noble Truths, which basically summarizes Buddhism. I think it was very clever how he wrote that. Another one is Jack Kerouac.
Oh yeah.
Jack Kerouac is one of the beat authors too. I'd say that's about
I
it.
know you're a
really
big-
don't. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I know you're a big musician. You play a lot of instruments. Any favorite one that you like the most, or like any specific musical taste that is your favorite?
I play harmonica. That's my main instrument.
Okay.
I've been playing that for a while. Harmonica and then chromatic harmonica. I also play a little bit of guitar. I'm not that great of a guitar player. My favorite player, Steve Vai, was also a friend of mine.
Okay.
And I also make bamboo flutes and play those.
Oh, nice. And then, so last question from me. Which actor do you think would be the most suitable for playing you in a biopic?
Clint Eastwood?
Clint Eastwood? Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't thought about it.
I feel like Clint, there's no way. I mean, I know Clint was in shape like back in the day, but I feel like he's never going to be able to come close to your aesthetics.
Well, I don't think anybody could really.
No? Nobody?
You know, maybe
Not the
closest
modern
is
guys?
Sylvester Stallone, maybe.
Yeah. Sly?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that very much.
That would be fun. So Sly would be a perfect one.
But I don't think they're about to make a move about me. Nobody's approached me on that, so I'm not overly concerned about it.
Well, there you go. If we got any Hollywood execs on the line,
I don't care. I don't care.
If
If I cared, I would have done it years ago, but I don't.
Yeah.
I was always
I
very
respect.
focused on bodybuilding.
Yeah, and now you're a man of quite a few passions. I didn't even know the flute part. That's pretty crazy. You're a very, very interesting person.
Well, it's whatever you focus on, you're capable of doing. And
Yeah.
I got interested in doing that, playing instruments and making instruments. I saw basically I would purchase, like how I got making flutes. I'd purchase one, then I would duplicate it. Then I would make it so that it fit my hand better. And actually, the ones that I made turned out to be better than the ones I bought.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time, Frank. I mean, this was a lot of fun. I think we covered a ton of topics. And anything you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
Well, another thing that I do a lot of is I do meditation on a regular basis. Every morning I meditate for a good half hour. I say a mantra over and over again. And I also say it during the day. I don't let my mind wander idly.
Mm-hmm.
There's a saying in Buddhism, of which I'm a student: our lives are shaped by our mind. We become what we think.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever thoughts we hold, we tend to become that.
Oh, wow, that's profound. I love you leaving the audience with that thought-provoking quote there.
The Buddha said that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I wonder how many people watching have heard that. I feel like we've got to get into more Buddhism there.
Buddha's one of my idols.
Oh, awesome. But yeah, I think we could wrap up there. Again, Frank, pleasure you joining us. And yeah, really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.